Hi, hello, it's me again. We're back, it's been a while, we're back with a Necro Devlog. And before I start the devlog, I would like to mention I am back with my Ko-Fi after a 9-month absence. So I'm planning on posting pretty much daily. They're going to be a little bit shitposty like they are currently, but I want to go back to doing it, so link is below if you want to just randomly see almost daily updates. Anyway, starting the devlog, you probably have seen several things different. Now, the biggest thing that jumps out of you is probably this giant thing in the middle. That's a vector text I was working on just to test the AI to test the UI user interface, so I can start getting like a main menu going. Maybe not health bars, but like, what do you call a HUD? That's what it's called, a HUD. The other things you may have noticed is the grass and the textures. Now these textures are just basic Blender noise textures. Nothing too big to write home about. Other than that, visually, that's pretty much all that there is. Now, talking specifically about the text. Oh, there's something else. The audio. Yeah, the audio's pissed off at me because I haven't correctly destroyed mini audio. Don't be too concerned with it. But speaking, what the hell? Just what? Future me problem. Speaking of the audio, if I just play it, you should have noticed it unless I like compressed it too much in DaVinci Resolve. You probably noticed it getting a little bit louder because it now stacks audio and mixes it instead of just cutting it off. I'm not going to sit here and listen to it. So, the big things I've done, I'll first just get into, I guess, the new descriptors. So, I said descriptors, but the bindings. We still have the same global one, the camera matrices, the model data, but there's a couple new ones. The material data, the material specifically image data, which right now only holds a single alpha texture that points to the grass alpha texture I'm using. Well, alpha texture, quote unquote. It's just a text. It's just a alpha cut out. It's like pure black, pure white. You cut out the pure black. Well, in this case, I'm actually just cutting out red because it doesn't have actual alpha. So, but nonetheless, it's the same. There's a struct for parameters when I start getting some PBR shaders going. They're probably not going to be like super strong PBR shaders, but I still want that kind of the framework so I can just squish it into my engine. And now we have the UI binding data, which is the UI. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's just a bunch of vertex points. I'll take you to the textures. Well, I guess before I take you to the textures, I should probably explain some new things. You may have noticed that if you have a keen eye, I am now calling the update buffer slightly different. And if I go into my rendering handler, actually I don't really need to go into the rendering handler. I'll go into my what did I call it? Descriptor and pools. I converted all of the transfers to just be global, just like some global pools and descriptors, so I can just include this and not have to deal with the transfer and everything, which prompted me to change how I update them into something like this, where I have 3 functions. I pass in the buffer data, I need a special image creation descriptor because it takes like image info, and then like a buffer descriptor, which just takes buffer info. Now, I could technically make this take an image, but I just don't want to have the dependency of an image everywhere. I can just have it in that one specific spot instead of every single place that uses this updater, because the new updater is used in a lot of places. Now if we go to the visual method, you may have noticed pipeline 2D layout. I had to split up the layouts, even though that the grass is technically a 2D thing. It exists in the 3D world opposed to the vector text and whatever else which will exist in the 2D plane, i.e. like right in front of the viewport. Now it is 101 vertex points. I'm probably going to cut that down to maybe 30 to allow only 10 triangles each. Or I'll probably end up creating... No, I think that's right. Because I'd rather have... So the grass is a visual object, much like the vector text and the unit selector, the little green thing you see above the character. These all have access to the 100, well, not access, but they all have an allocation of data for the 101 vertex points. And I'm spawning maybe 2,000 grass at least, so that quickly adds up. So what I'm probably going to do is just create a special UI entity, and then like keep the visuals strictly 3D visual, or 3D effect. But as you can imagine, after I changed the buffer and the global things, I have a lot less code inside the actual objects. I have maybe like a third of what I previously had. I think that's about accurate, a third. The thing that really prompted me to do the new updater things is the texture. I did not want to have, the same reason I didn't put it in the updater, I'm not putting it in the character, because even though that all characters might use it, I don't want it in every character, because, I mean, I'm including, as you can see, the system, and the system is quite large, so it's easier to just give it the descriptor data instead. Makes it a whole lot easier to pass into the shader. One really interesting thing I found out about the textures is that I can actually use the world position as basically a... I can use the world position as basically a seed for the... What? Where is my wrong shader? I can essentially use the world rotation, or the world location, as a seed for the rotation. If you didn't see it, it's a little bit easier to see in the sand than it is the grass. If you really look, there's like these sharp lines everywhere to help it break up. Well, I mean, it's... So instead of having like a square stamped on every hexagon, I think that's a hexagon. Instead of having the square stamped on every hexagon, I have the square just like rotated ever so slightly, so it helps break up the texture a little bit more, makes it less seem like a pattern. So, I mean, even though that there's some lines, I consider that a win for me. If we ping pong back to the UI, You may have noticed. I don't know why I keep saying you may have noticed. I'm not exactly showing it. I had to change from a uniform buffer to a storage buffer. I'm not exactly sure why it couldn't read the uniform buffer correctly, because it's the uniform buffer is like 54,000 bytes, and there's only like maybe 1,000 bytes at most. I think the exact number is 808. So I'm not quite sure why it couldn't read it, but I had to switch over to a storage buffer, which prompted me to actually change some of my device settings. And by device settings, I mean like the application has to physically get the device, and I had to enforce the vertex pipeline stores and automatics to be true to aid with the usage of the storage buffers. If we go back down into my tile generator, I finally got around to removing a bunch of the repetitive code of the former creation, and now it's just a function I can call upon. I really hate this thing though. I really want to remove it, just haven't really found what I quite want for the waves instead. I'm probably going to settle on like maybe a more, I don't really want to call it blocky, but a more, instead of having it be a sine wave, I want it to just be something else. I haven't quite figured out what I want to land on yet, so it's still here, taking up a lot of space. Along with making the descriptors global, I actually went around and made like the window settings and render settings global. Now, I still kept the struct and an inline reference to them, because I'm not quite sure how this is going to be implemented if I do multiplayer, because obviously each player will have like a different render settings and all that. So I kind of left it as a struct, and I'm just kind of assuming that I can create a new struct and just assign it to that player and have that player use it. This is also working on the assumption that I will make it multiplayer. It's going to be a Sid Meier's Civ-like game, so it will probably end up being multiplayer eventually. But I'm just trying to have fun with it currently. Now, I actually thought I had a lot more to say about this, but apparently I don't. So, that's the end of today's devlog. If you enjoyed it, why not hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, it always helps. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.